Rapid prototyping isn't rapid if your printer backlog is 2 weeks. Even anything over 1 week is suspect. Now, production environments are different, but for rapid prototyping, the entire premise, the whole idea, was that an engineer has a hunch, prints something to test that hunch out, and finds out the next day if his idea will work or not. Because what happens if that engineer can't test their hunch out the next day? They wait. That's right, they're sitting there waiting at a crossroads, which impacts the entire downstream process all down the chain. When I first became an engineer over 20 years ago, waiting 2 weeks to test an idea was pretty standard. If you had to order a part off a shelf, it might be 3 to 6 weeks. Even if you convince the CNC shop to carve out a little time just for you, it might be a week before you actually get that part in hand. A lot of the failure investigations I used to do for the Navy took 2 weeks between steps, as we waited for test samples to get made out of carbon fiber or milled out of titanium. And in that time, you moved around to other projects, you worked on different things, but mainly you waited. We're not in those days anymore. So what do we do about it? Every single large 3D printing shop I've ever been to looks like this. There's some time for the part to actually get printed on the machine. There's some time for the part to get cleaned up in post-processing, things like that. But the vast majority of the time takes place here in the beginning, between when the part is submitted and when the part actually starts to get printed. Look deep inside your heart. You know this to be true. A lot of jobs that take 8 hours to get printed wait 2 weeks in the queue before the printer even starts. Sometimes that wait is legitimate. You're running every single printer you have at max capacity 24 hours around the clock. That's fine. But a lot more often, an engineer sends an email asking the shop manager if he can get a part printed. And that email waits in the shop for the shop manager to read it. The shop manager sends an email back saying, yeah, we can print something in 2 days. And that email waits for the engineer to read it. The engineer asks, do you have this material in stock? Operator replies, yes we do. How many parts do you need? I need 5. Here are the files. Those files need to be repaired. Can you send me new ones? At every step in the process, emails are waiting to get read. How many of you guys have 0 unread emails in your inbox right now? So if you want to reduce the wait time in your rapid prototyping shop, you could try to squeeze more blood out of the stone and cut down the actual printing time through some sort of faster print head or tighter tool pass. Or you could attack the very low-hanging fruit and cut down this huge non-value added wait time here at the beginning. And that's what we're trying to do in the software division here at Stratasys. Use software tools to automate the process of getting these jobs into the printer. You'll hear a little later from one of our customers, TTI Floor Care, using one of our tools, GrabCAD Shop, to do exactly that. But getting more general, what do you want this automated software tool here at the beginning that's made to reduce your queue size, what do you want it to look like? Well, you probably want to talk to every type of printer you have. Having individual slicing programs for every printer is okay, but you only want one backbone for all those slices to feed into. One backbone for all your queue visibility, your material visibility. You want that all integrated, not in different silos. Secondly, you want the software to automate simple human tasks, so you don't have to wait for a human to read an email anymore. What are some simple tasks we can automate? Well, letting requesters know what printers are available, letting them know what materials are available, letting them know what the cost of their print will be before they request it. These are the 3 main places a print waits early on in the process. What else can we automate? Here are my 4 tips when you're looking for something or designing a software system to help you cut down your non-value added wait time here at the beginning. Tip number 1, group your incoming jobs by material, not date needed. It makes sense in the short term, you might want to get to your most urgent job first, but in the long term, to reduce your time not printing, you want to minimize material changeover. We all know that changing materials on any kind of 3D printer is a bit of a hassle. So if your automatic queuing system automatically groups all incoming jobs by material and not date, you can print big blocks of similar jobs before having to stop and change over materials. In more extreme circumstances, you can even limit the choice of materials requesters have in your automated system. We've seen this mostly in higher education and schools, but GrabCAD Shop gives you ways to limit the materials any group of requesters can select. That's tip number 1, group incoming jobs by material. You want your automated system to do that. Tip number 2 is Pack your jobs to run overnight, but always pack them to end when someone is in the office to switch over to the next job. Most of you guys already print overnight. Perfectly good. But how many of you have an intelligent, automated system to pack jobs just big enough to always finish the job when someone's in the office? Sometimes it's tempting to pack a tray as full as possible, and if the job ends at 2 o'clock in the morning, oh well. But it's actually more efficient to print a smaller job that ends earlier or a bigger job that ends later when people are in the office to switch out the trays. We don't have that software quite ready yet, but that's the sort of thing we're working on. It's better to have jobs end when someone can switch out to the next job in 5 minutes rather than waiting for 5 hours for someone to be in the office. Tip number 3. Invest in software tools that let you monitor leading metrics, not lagging ones. So I was listening in on a competitor's webinar the other week, and I asked the presenters what metrics they use to watch to keep their shop running as efficiently as possible, and they both said jobs per day. Does anyone see a problem with that? You don't notice your jobs per day going down until after it started to go down. It's a lagging metric. You want to watch leading metrics because they tell you about a problem before it happens. So what are some leading metrics? Queue size, raw material inventory, amount of engineers given the ability to request prints from you. All those numbers tell you about a problem before they happen. So you want to invest in a system that notices leading metrics instead of lagging metrics. We're working on a few things in those areas too. And finally, my last unexpected tip to reduce queue time: reduce your printer utilization rate. In his seminal book, Managing a Design Factory, Donald Reinstein says the optimal rate for a machine or person in a rapidly changing design environment is 50%. If every resource you have is going full out to meet all current schedules, if something unexpected or urgent comes up, you have no capacity to meet that shock in the system, and it causes other downstream shocks in the system. We're seeing that right now in global supply chains with everything from British Gas to hospitals in America. Every urgent job goes to the back of a very long queue. But if you designate one printer, just one, as surge capacity, and you don't let it get used for mundane day-to-day stuff, if you let it sit idle half the time, when that urgent job comes in, instead of waiting 2 weeks at the end of the queue, it gets done in 1 day and sent out. Reinstein does the math in his book, but basically, it doesn't matter if taking one printer out of your farm makes your backlog go from 2 weeks to 2 weeks and 1 day. That difference is already meaningless. What matters most for your average time is that now you have the ability to get some of your jobs done in 1 day, overnight. That is what makes the most difference in a creative endeavor, and also in customer happiness. It takes a little judgment on choosing which jobs to designate to be the one-day wonders, but that's a skill of being a job manager. Just don't let your urgent emergency management machine get pulled into your day-to-day queue, or you've lost your capacity to respond to system shocks. One and done. So those are some general tips on how to make your rapid prototyping shop do what it was meant to again.